seeking to do is to show the people the commonalities of their afflictions so as to enable them understand that those that have been told that they are their enemies are not their enemies, but fellow victims. And it is in the recognition of the commonalities of these afflictions that the people can stand together as one to demand the changes that they desire. Emmanuel Edozie says 2 military coups took place barely 6 years after Nigeria gained its independence, which he believed led to the civil war. Question is, could this war have been avoided? History would have its final say on this. In my view, I believe that if the problems had been addressed without the resort to violence in January and the further resort to even more mindless violence in July, we probably would have managed to resolve our issues without the bloodshed that resulted into the Biafran War. This, in my view, do you have a society where nothing is remembered, but nothing is equally forgiven? It sounds like a contradiction in terms, but it is not. And I'll show you how. The first thing that happens when you want to unite a people devoid of understanding is to give them a common enemy. You give them someone to hate, you give them someone to blame. But because hatred requires simplicity, a sophisticated person is incapable of hatred because you will have to question your own humanity before you may develop the capacity to hate another. Let me remind you that Bugaje, I believe he was the former secretary of the party, the APC, he told all Nigerians very early in the day, in the life of the Buhari regime, how the APC imported Fulanis from across the Sahel in order to unseat Jonathan. All of a sudden, because of the madness of a power concentric that had only their own selfish interests at heart, we had evil normalized in our space and claimed in the name of an ethnic group. The Fulanis are a migratory lot. Very few took power in vast parts of what is northern Nigeria. They took powers and became the overlord. But over time, they became assimilated into the communities in which they were found because of the actions of those who are imported by Yoruba APC members, Igbo APC members, Ijaw APC members. It was for the narrow, selfish interest of the APC and other power mongers within that collective that these foreigners were brought into Nigeria and allowed to reign with impunity. I'll remind you that the dwarf of Kaduna was not shy in admitting to the fact that he paid ransoms and bribes to these marauders whilst they ran riot across southern Kaduna. Make the distinction. Remember the long years of peaceable living with the Fulani peasantry. I speak to this because today it is the Yoruba, the nationality to which I belong, that is the recipient of the hatred that has been engendered by the overreach and hatred that was deployed by Tinubu and his gang in the lead up to the 2023 election. Today, a lot of people conveniently forget that the primary victims of Tinubu's 2023 overreach and Orojide Sanwo-Oku's emergence were the Yorubas themselves. On February 25th, across the length and breadth of Yoruba land, the Yoruba people spoke in rejecting Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But today, because of what INEC has done and because it is easier for people to receive hatred rather than to look to the issues, it is conveniently forgotten that in spite of the best effort of the Lagos State Resident Electoral Commissioner Segun Agbaje, Bola Tinubu was roundly defeated in every local government in Lagos State, except perhaps for Lagos Island. Everywhere else in Lagos State, he was roundly rejected, and Peter Obi won resoundingly. You don't need to take my word for it. Take the PDP's Situation Room report, which shows very clearly that Bola Tinubu made less than 20% of the vote in Lagos State. Why do you think they weaponized hatred in the lead up to the March 18 gubernatorial election, where you had Oro coming out across the length and breadth of Lagos State? If that would happen in Lagos State, where you and I could see, what do you think happened in Oyo State? What do you think happened in Ekiti, in Ondo, in Kwara, in Ogun? Places where we do not have the same level of mobilization as you had in Lagos. The governors merely wrote the result in conjunction with INEC. But today, those who should know better and who should spend time explaining these issues to our people have bought into the illusion of a Yoruba people who stood behind somebody we roundly rejected. The beauty of our situation is that we have to become a bit more reflective instead of always accepting what we are told by those who only seek to further their own agenda. Let's look at the Igbo man. Today, the object of hatred behind which people are being mobilized is the Igbo man. We have lived without war. We Yorubas have lived without war with the Igbos long before the white man came to these shores. Long before the white man came to these shores, there are no histories of any war between the Yorubas and the Igbo. Yes, we have competition. That is normal and should be encouraged. The strength of Nigeria is found in our diversity when healthy competition is encouraged. That was what took place in the lead up to the Nigerian independence. Hunger does not care about your ethnic nationality. Hunger cares nothing for what religion you profess. Your pastors tell you to pray when you complain about the evils that you are facing. How many of them are praying? They go around with bulletproof cars, but they ask you to pray for your own safety. You find DSS officials around men of God, quote and unquote, but you are the one constantly reminded to pray. They are praying on you even as they are telling you to pray. But all of these you cannot see because you have simply received the hatred. So you forget nothing of the evils that you believe has been done to you, but you remember nothing of what the evidences of your own brain, your eyes, should be showing you. Does it strike you that you are actually the one that is strengthening the bond of your own slavery? How is it that you fail to understand that those who are ruining you as a collective are not bothered by any of the differences that they have weaponized against you? They will tell you that they have shut the borders so that they will stimulate food production in your country. At least that was the story Buhari told all of us. Meanwhile, in the same country whose borders they have shut, you have the IB days of this world, thanks to Fisai Oshoyombo for the sterling work that he has done. You have the IB days of this world before whom your custom officers will cower and be begging, bringing in all kind of God knows what. That same man was part of your president's entourage to the COP summit in Dubai. A smuggler. In other countries of the world, When reports such as the one released by Fisayo would come out, the state would swing into action. But have you heard a word from your state? Nigeria has become a criminal enterprise, and all they have done is to give you persons to hate, groups to hate, tribes to hate, ethnic nationalities to focus on hating, religious groups to dislike and to hate, instead of focusing on the putrefaction of our collective by those who are encouraging you to hate.